Good morning. Thank you for everybody who's able to log in. I think we had a really large number of folks that registered for the event. So, um, people continue to compile in and we appreciate the attendance. Hopefully my good friend, Peter Guzman will be one of those folks as my co-host. But we will anxiously await his arrival. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get the presentation up and running. As Christina mentioned, this is really meant to be far more of a conversation than a presentation. If any of you were able to log into our last webinar, that was really information based, but we really want for you all to be able to gain as much information from this and talk about how you can implement some of these strategies. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Christina Riley. I am a production of Registered Apprenticeship. I am a graduate of the Northwest Laborers Apprenticeship Training Center, and I am a journeyman laborer. I wholeheartedly believe that apprenticeship is the pathway to success, and your ceiling is found when you reach it, meaning that we can really accomplish anything that we want to. When I started, I knew a handful of tools, never been on a job site, but I knew that I wanted to make a living wage. And so that's what was the driver for me. So in my career, I've worked mostly in concrete and demolition. Was a concrete foreman eventually, and then became an apprenticeship coordinator where I learned the rules and regulations and mentorship that is deeply ingrained in registered apprenticeship. Took a little hiatus to work in a region of 9 states to build relationships with our great tribes and focus on apprenticeship, and eventually landed into running my own consulting business where I focus on a couple of things, one being tribal relations, as well as labor relations. But mostly I focus on registered apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, and building those relationships and networks to continue to make that an avenue for anybody and everyone who wants to enter. So thank you again for taking the time. I can't see everybody is here. So if Peter has made it, please feel free to introduce yourself. Christina, do you know if he's made it here?
He has not signed in yet, no.
All right. Peter's just back from vacation, so we will give him a whole lot of grace.
Me and I yelled at him to get on his Zoom.
Wonderful. Well, we will save that for when he gets on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shayna, for doing that. That's greatly appreciated. Background support is always a great thing to have, and we're grateful for you and for the Machinist Institute. I'm Christina Rupp, the director for the Washington State Construction Center of Excellence. It's a pleasure to be hosting this event for you today. The Washington State Construction Center of Excellence is the convening and resource hub for Washington's construction industry. We foster partnerships and relationships between business, labor, government, and education systems. We also have an upcoming forum, the Enlightened Women's Forum, which is March 21st of this year, and I will put information in the chat. Our keynote speaker will be Hillary Peach, who is a boiler inspector and welder and author. She has released a book called Thick Skin, Field Notes from a Sister in the Brotherhood, and she'll be joining us on March 21st, and we hope to see you there. Registration opens January 16th. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for hosting. For those of you that are not well connected with the Construction Center of Excellence, such a great partner and a resource for the relationships that we're fostering, whether it's K through 12 or college system. Christina, I appreciate all that you are doing. So from there, we will go ahead and get into it. So many of you were along the ride of this system integration project that we were tasked with. So I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, but basically Labor and Industries had a project that needed to be done. And the idea was to figure out how to better make our partnerships within all of the systems work to benefit and grow registered apprenticeship in Washington State. We needed to identify who the key stakeholders were and how they could better communicate and organize and collaborate together in the hopes that at the end of the day, our registered apprenticeship system would grow. And so that was the main focus. And this funding came from the Department of Labor with the key focus of, expansion, retention, and getting into our rural communities. Peter, you're here.
Sorry, I just got back from 10 days in Cancun, so blood out of sorts.
Is there anything you want to add? This is your slide.
Sorry about that, everybody. Apologize. Yes, really what the intent of the grant was really to continue expansion of registered apprenticeship and the alignment of the various public and private entities that are out there. And really at the end of the day, so we can have a better candidate that gets into registered apprenticeship at whatever place they're at. We obviously are data driven in terms of capturing data to manage and assess the pathway of potential apprentices into the system. And then what are the gaps? Why are apprentices either being successful or not successful? And then at the end of the day, what this particular project was attempting to do is develop some recommendations and best practices so that we can continue to build upon really the good work that many of us have done previously, but going forward, as the continued interest in registered apprenticeship grows in both the traditional building construction trades, aerospace manufacturing, as well as non-traditional trades, how can we continue to keep the rigor and the integrity of registered apprenticeship intact and then allow it to organically, but with the intent of the registered apprenticeship model to flourish so everybody can take advantage of it that is interested in it. So I will hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's important to kind of understand the basis of why we were tasked with this study so that you can, understand why the recommendations are set the way that they are. So for those of you that were not involved, and I know many of you were just very quick overview, our team held 6 separate listening and learning sessions. The idea behind that was that we would bring everybody together, explain what our project was, what our goals were, and sit back and listen, facilitate great conversations. And so we were able to do that. 2 of those sessions were a mixed group of anybody and everybody who considered themselves a stakeholder. And then we did individualized sessions based on sector. So we held an apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, labor listening session. We held a educational session that included the K through 12 education partners, as well as our community and technical colleges. We also listened to our workforce development stakeholders to include any tribal governments that were interested. And this allowed everybody to be very open and speak freely about areas where there was great successes and, maybe some areas that could be better and could use a little bit more work. So from there, we conducted one-on-one interviews for folks who really had a lot to share. And to follow that, we ended with a survey to better capture the information that we got. And the whole time, we just really wanted to emphasize that not only did we hear what you said, but we reported back out to make sure that we captured it correctly and that information wasn't tweaked anyway. So really, we wanted to make sure that this represented what we heard. So there's a really huge amount of buckets that we identified what we heard from you. And these are some of the main points. And I think that none of them are really shocking. So our partners, whether it's K through 12, workforce, and community-based organizations, they do not understand the access point for registered apprenticeship. And it makes sense because they're all different. And some of them you can apply online, and some of them you have to show up at 7 o'clock with a bunch of documents in your hand. And so, this is one area where there was a lot of confusion, frustration, and focus from our partners. And I don't think that is surprising to any of you. Our partners asked for a cheat sheet. They don't know what registered apprenticeship programs are available in their area. They don't know who to contact. I think that we found that there's a lot of relationships, but they're one-offs based on certain areas. Some areas, the South Puget Sound, Seattle, obviously there's a lot more communication available, but other areas, there's really a lacking of understanding who is in the area and who do I call, and a little frustration around dialing the phone number and getting handed off and not really ever making a relationship. There was also a lot of frustration around staff changing out. And so again, those relationships and the communication stream has been cut because the person you knew at organization A is now at organization B, and nobody at organization A knows what that person did. And so there's just been a lot of lost information in relationships. And so our partners, again, were a little frustrated with that. We also heard that some programs have a really long list of applicants and they don't need help. But they're not keeping their apprentices. So what can we do to focus and uplift the success of people who have already entered into apprenticeship? And I know Peter will share some things that L&I is doing internally to work on that. But I think that there are steps that each program can implement on their own that will help with the success of keeping their apprentices and not just getting the applicants that they need. And then we also heard that there's a hardship in partnership with our K through 12, our CTC directors. We know from programs, we feel frustrated. We can't be in every single place that asks us. We can't take every applicant that is recommended from, a skill center or something else. But the school districts also felt that when there's a waiting list of, 250 to 1,000 applicants, what is the benefit of sending a graduating high schooler to an apprenticeship program, right? And so some of those things are really what we're going to dive into today. And the goal is that after today, you can take some of these strategies and implement into your training center. And it's not, we've made recommendations to the state as to what labor and industries can do, but I think that there's a lot that you can take as a program to implement for better success. So, Peter.
Thank you for that overview, Christina. So really there's a lot of, as I stated, continuous interest in getting more people into the pipeline of registered apprenticeship, both from the job seeker side, but also from the business side in terms of those that are interested in starting up a registered apprenticeship, but have no familiarity with it. Some pieces of legislation which have directed labor industries to help with, let's say, I'm going to start on the job seeker side, is Senate Bill 5600, which was passed back in the 2022 session, which was a very monolithic bill that included pretty much the entire kitchen sink of how we can help register apprenticeship. One of the things that they provided us were grants to support the prospective apprentice as well as apprentices that are already in the system. From wraparound services grant that can help those apprentices that really in the first year that we know anecdotally have the most challenges for registered apprenticeship. So we receive grants for wraparound services. We also receive grants for programs that are administering the apprenticeships for equipment, supplies, and also for other needs that they may have in trying to really support the apprenticeship system. And we were so successful last year in awarding the grants that they continued the legislature to provide us more grants for wraparound support services that really go directly to the apprentice. The other piece of 5600, which we are also managing, is we are conducting an apprentice retention survey, if you will. It's taken us about 9 months to get it up and going in terms of questions that we ask of potential prospective apprentices and those within their first year of apprenticeship to try to find out what is actually happening with them that leads to their success or dropping out of the apprenticeship program. Our intent is to have a platform with some of that information, a dashboard. And it will, for the first time, give us some evidence-based data that shows what's actually happening with the apprentices in the while they're in the program. And then we could hopefully get some data that will then be reported to the legislature that can support the continued either assistance in area. We all know that like childcare, transportation, especially in the building trades, are very big challenges, but maybe there's other challenges. Christina, or either Christina, I saw something came in the chat. You want me to answer those now, or we can do it afterwards? How do you want to handle that?
You can answer now.
Okay, where did that come in? Here it is. For some reason, my chat's off. Can you ask the question or repeat it? Because I can't find it right now. What did it say?
Peter, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. There was, I think Nisi had written a comment about
there
our
was a
path
comment.
for the
Okay.
region. Mhm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No
I
worries.
still can't walk and chew gum and do a Zoom at the same time yet, but we're working on it. So anyway, retention survey. So that's one of the things. The other thing that really is going to support really on the really the demand side of having more slots for apprentices is the notion of these industry sector platforms. Those of you that are presently in the registered apprenticeship system know that your program, whether it's a new program or if you go for revision, it has to go before the Apprenticeship Council 4 times a year. And you provide us with your application documents that has everything that we can, if it meets the RCW and the WACs, and we could propose it to the council. We have industry sector platforms that are now going to be interwoven into the process of assessing these programs to make sure they're right and ready for the council's review, and really to minimize objection. So it's something that we're getting more I guess analysis of programs, so we can get really if you're going to sustain and expand registered apprenticeship, then really we have to expand it in existing building trades and other traditional fields as well as non-traditional fields. So that is something that we are starting up, but probably will implement sometime in the spring, summer of this year. I mean, we had to hire 6 staff to do that. So there's a lot of ongoings that are happening there. And really the intent of the legislature continues to provide us with funding to support both existing apprenticeship programs as well as new entrants into into the fold. And this year, I don't think is slowed down. We're already receiving more legislation to help us kind of manage the growth of registered apprenticeship. And really, it's going to be incumbent on all of us that are existing professionals in this workforce development apprenticeship space to help kind of lead this. I mean, we are the regulatory arm of apprenticeship, but those players out in the system that actually have the apprenticeship programs, train the program participants, as well as any kind of support agencies, are all here to help us do this really expansion that we're talking about. So more to come. Hand it back to you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to make sure for those of you that did participate in the listening sessions, these big themes were not left out of the report. We gave a lot of information so that Peter could use it when talking to the state legislature and others, but it was outside of the scope. So know that if you haven't cracked open the just shy of 70-page report, each and every one of these items was discussed at length, but alluded to, hey, this is a bigger issue than what we can do within this project. And the stigma around apprenticeship, I really like to highlight, because this was like an internal argument that we had within our consulting team. Joseph Huff and Jade Curl, they weren't able to make it today. But what we really found is those of us who work in apprenticeship think that there is no stigma, but there is, and it's more so parents and other industries that don't utilize apprenticeship yet that still believe that there is a stigma and that apprenticeship is the other pathway if you can't go to college, right? And so although those of us in it feel as though it is getting better, and it is, there's still a lot of stigma. It's just outside of our circles that we work with. So I just wanted to share that. So these are kind of the main takeaways that we wanted to focus on, not the only recommendations, but a lot of what we expect to talk with you as far as implementation for apprenticeship programs, pre-apprenticeship programs. So the retention piece. Many of you have no issues with getting people to apply for your program, and you have stacks of applications in folders or on the wall. Great. But you still have an area of a lot of people leaving your program. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. Many of our programs do not charge a fee if you leave. And, there's not a lot of data around this. What Peter discussed earlier with the surveys that are going out, I think that is going to be a huge piece of data that can be utilized by programs, especially when you're talking about support services. But we were able to look at some anecdotal information. There are programs that do exit interviews. And the number one thing that we've seen is about 50% of the people that leave apprenticeship, they just disappear. And so, maybe your program does try to contact multiple times and figure out where they've gone. Phone numbers change. They don't respond to emails or letters. They're really just gone. So there isn't a whole lot we can do about that. But when asked why people in this survey left apprenticeship, it wasn't the reasons we expected. It wasn't because of childcare. It wasn't because of traveling to the job site. Again, this is anecdotal. But what they said was training is hard. The school is hard. The on-the-job training is hard. And so to us, what we really gained from that was, if we better focus on internal mentorship, whether on the job or in the classroom, and dived a little deeper to figure out, what do you mean by hard? Is there a learning disability? Is there a math issue? And we need some one-on-one training to help this person succeed. Would we see those numbers grow? And so when we asked at following sessions, who does exit interviews? Most of you don't. A few of you do. And they're really not set up in a way to get down to the weeds as to why people are exiting. It's very top level. It's too hard. Well, what do you mean? We need to dive into that. And there was other reasons, obviously, but that was the main reason. It was just too hard. So we really feel that not only does this allow you for intervention for the apprentice that's leaving, allows you for that conversation and take some time to maybe figure out pathways for success for that individual, but really you should be able to take that information for your program and implement some changes that would assist with better outcomes. There are a few programs that have really great graduation rates, but for the most part, you know, our graduation rate and our cancellation rate are very similar. So I just wanted to read the chat here really quick. So Eric, Christina, was it the intent to follow this session with sending out the report? I can't remember. If not, I can send it to you.
Yeah, I put both your email and the CCE email in the chat to request a copy of the report, and the transcript is what will go out to everyone following the meeting.
Okay, perfect. So moving on to the resources, and Nisi, I think that you touched on this. There's a lot of great apprenticeship information. When our team went and searched the internet and providers, there are a lot of wonderful marketing tools that have already been put together. But our partners don't know about them. They do not refer people to them, and there's too many of them. So one of the recommendations is, and maybe this is something that the JRRC could focus on, but really figure out that landing page, who's going to own that, and where can it go from there. Labor and Industries, you're awesome, but your web page is not user friendly. It's not something that's going to attract high school students and job seekers. It's too cumbersome and confusing, and you have to know what you're looking for to find it. So how do we, you know, and I know that we've seen our brothers and sisters in Oregon, they have a great landing page. And so how do we implement that in Washington so it's not spouting out 5 or 6 or 7 resources? It's just one. And from there, we can go to other resources. But, you know, we have too much out there with nobody really being aware of it. And it was evident because when we went through the listening and learning sessions, you know, we had folks in the room that said, oh, we've already done all of this. Great. How come nobody knows about it? You know, so that is an area where all of us can really work together to kind of figure out and coordinate. Christina, your Construction Center of Excellence is clearly a wonderful resource with a lot of great information and links. So that would be, you know, somewhere where I would choose to send somebody. But I think that if we can become more streamlined, it would be less cumbersome, and there it would be a lot more utilized. And, you know, when we're talking about the people that are going to be using this, we are talking about high school counselors, we are talking about parents, but we're also talking about our folks that work in the workforce system, like WorkSource. You're somebody who doesn't really know what apprenticeship is, finds a client who likes to work outside with their hands. How are they really going to refer them to an apprenticeship program? We have to make it easy for them. It has to be literally as easy as either sending a link, giving a QR code or a flyer, and not 10 or 20, right? And so we need to make it much simpler and take the work out of it so that it is actually utilized. So, Anisi, if you want to share, I would be happy. I would be happy to open the floor, and you can kind of report out what you guys are doing if you're able to.
Oh, hello, everybody. So I'm on the RPAC committee on the outreach, I'm on the RPAC, but I'm on the outreach committee, excuse me. And one of our main focuses is building a website, basically like a one-stop shop for everything.
Nisi, we're having problem with your sound.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, Nisi, I apologize. I'm gonna go ahead and mute. Okay.
So, and I just want to really highlight that that was a huge concern of our partners. And so I just really want, our programs to really think about that, how we can collectively as an apprenticeship team figure out how to make it easier. Let's just make it easy, right? And then the marketing strategy. So there's a couple of pieces to this. One is we're really bad as the trades to send out information on when we're accepting applications. So if you don't know somebody, you're not going to know about the opportunities. And we've talked about that for as long as I can remember. So, we ask the questions, where do you post job openings? Well, most of you don't. When things get really crazy, then maybe you start seeing it pop up on spaces, but for the most part, it's not shared. The other thing that we heard is some of these smaller programs, they don't have the capacity to have somebody in marketing, and they don't have the capacity to be at career days or talk to high school students or be at a work source center, especially if it's off the I-5 corridor, and especially if it's more than a 30-minute drive away from the office, because you're wearing a lot of hats and you're very busy, and I'd say you're overworked, right? So how do we make this easier? And we talked about registered apprenticeship and really getting to our rural communities and growing apprenticeship in that way. And how do we do that if we don't have time to make it out to each and every area within Washington state? And it's not for the desire not to, it's just the capacity. So this is an area where I really feel like our smaller programs and even our large programs need to work together, utilize some of our partners like our work sources to help be that marketing piece. How is it if I'm headed out to Quinault that I don't have each and every one of your, program information, because likely not everybody's going to want to do what I'm doing, right? So there's just needs to be more coordination. And we need to support programs that just don't have the capacity. I'm reading some of these. I'm reading some of these comments. So yes. So the first one says our high school pre-apprentices have trouble getting return calls or emails from apprenticeship programs. And right, so that's another capacity issue. Shane, I see your hands up and you have a comment. So go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, I was gonna ask, I know historically a long time ago, the compliance review subcommittee would not allow programs to combine efforts on outreach and recruitment. And I don't remember if that's changed. So I just wanted to flag that for Peter, or if that is allowable, because I think there is a lot of benefit to, pooling resources and being able to share across the different, programs.
Yeah, Shane, as far as I know, there isn't a restriction of doing that. What I think becomes challenging is if a program is doing outreach and recruitment and is not in compliance with either their minority women numbers, the type of justification in terms of what outreach you did, we've made it more prescriptive in terms of what qualifies for doing that. Now, I mean, we're really encouraging programs to go out there and use whatever resources are available or any best practices that are available to them, and just capture that process so we know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, hopefully it'll be more effective in terms of the end product of getting continuous quality candidates into the program. But great question.
And Shayna, in your comment, you mentioned the RPAC committee, and that is definitely a best practice that we have seen, but it really is focused on two things. One, the building and construction trades, right? And two, kind of that Seattle, Puget Sound area. So when you're talking about Vancouver, or Spokane, although there are some, apprenticeship committees that meet, it's just not the same efforts like what you're seeing in Seattle. And so, that's one of the recommendations that you'll see later on, is kind of building these regional communities of practice to talk about, to collaborate, to network the work that you're already doing in a way that's actually going to pay off. And for the statewide programs, having a regional, either, a coordinator or outreach specialist, somebody that can really work within the area that they live, could be so beneficial, because, from what we heard from our partners, especially on the east side of the state, is most of the apprenticeship programs are statewide. You can apply, but they're not taking apprentices anywhere in the area. And if they are, it's ones and twos. And so we know, well, there needs to be opportunities, right? There needs to be better utilization of apprenticeship, more employers on board. We know all of that. But for folks that are sending people to programs, it's very frustrating and deflating when there's never really any opportunity. And even though applications are open, they're not really open for that generalized area. So working together kind of in that regional capacity is something that we would really like to see, bolstered locally. So
Christina, if I could add here, what's happening, at least in our state as well as nationally, in terms of the systems integration, or trying to have a better system of information communication that gets out to the general public about registered apprenticeship, and involves the existing players that are the registered apprenticeship training providers. We at L&I Apprenticeship, because of legislation, are partnering more closely now with Employment Security Department, Career Connect Washington, which is more of a youth focus, but has career launch, career prep, and exploration. And they're reaching kind of a broader audience in terms of apprenticeship. And one of the challenges we've been having is trying to educate them, the new entrants into our world, about what is registered apprenticeship. I mean, it even starts with a simple definition of what it is: OJT, RSI, with a job under a standard program of apprenticeship. Some of these definitions are lost on many, but it's something that they are learning. And if asked is, hey, can you give us apprenticeship 101s on what you guys do every day? And so that's something that's happening. We also have closer, and there was a question about K through 12, relationship with OSPI, educational service districts, to develop more preparatory programs through the educational service districts. There was a bill passed last year, and don't ask me to quote it because I have too many bills in my head, but really it's to stand up 5 sites, 3 on the west side, 2 on the east side, with the education service districts. And
you muted yourself somehow, Peter.
I did. I have I was quick on the finger. Anyway, we're working with OSPI on developing 5 apprenticeships prep sites throughout the state, really using the Marysville School District model in terms of what they did up there. I believe it's the RAP program. So it's something that we're venturing more and more with sister agencies and existing players in the apprenticeship space. We're also working with, if any of you know, Akron as Washington Student Achievement Council, or WASAC, with them trying to promote their Washington College Grant Program for apprenticeship. They also received, I believe it's a $23 million grant under the Washington Jobs Initiative to continue to expand and support more traditional, non-traditional apprenticeship. And so all of these efforts are happening at once. And the communication, the marketing is one piece that we're, at least I am trying to get a common definition of what terms mean, like a glossary. Maybe that's something we can come up with. I'm sure we've developed it in the past, Christina, with many of those of you on the call. But also what we're talking about here is, I mean, Elle and I used to produce this apprenticeship publication that had all the programs, registered apprenticeship programs and support systems. But the problem was that it was a static document. It had to be updated. Yes, our website is not very user-friendly, but there are more that are being developed out there, but we're still not aligned. Everybody has their own marketing piece. I think Christina Rupp's probably the best one we have out there. And but it's something that I am continuing to just kind of beat the drum on: common integration, definition, and then really what we're trying to do is connect the dots here, right? Between who's out there in the system. Yeah, it'd be nice to have kind of a database where, hey, I have an opening in the laborers union or, machinist institute, but we don't have that system in place yet. But it's something that we're continuing to go towards. Or if you need help with an apprentice, I have an apprentice that needs childcare or, driver's license reinstatement, whatever the situation is, or even new players into the system. How do I do this apprenticeship thing? Especially in the rural, small areas that, they're very remote and don't have access to Wi-Fi, or you have to travel more than 100 miles to the training site. These are real issues that we are dealing with here. And so really, it's such a big problem that all of a sudden, with best kept secret, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to do it. So I am trying with my colleagues here manage all of the growth for registered apprenticeship without deminimizing the rigor of apprenticeship. Like it's too hard. Council only meets 4 times a year. And what do you mean we have to have 2,000 hours of OJT and 144-hour minimum of RSI? It's like, well, that's what it is. If you don't want to play in the sandbox, that's okay. You can go over here. But if you want to come in this space, this is what you have to do. So all of these are challenges that we're managing, and we really need to do it together. So that's my plea here. We got to do it together.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to call out Leslie's comment in the chat about workforce development boards. So we were really happy with the participation that we had with our listening session that was focused on the workforce development councils. We were very strategic in placing our session at their quarterly meeting, their statewide meeting. So I am a workforce development council board member for Pack Mountain. And so I leveraged that relationship, and they hosted after one of their statewide meetings. And one of the areas that our board for Pack Mountain has realized, just like Peter alluded to, is there's a lot of confusion around what apprenticeship is and isn't. Many of our employers think they have an apprenticeship program and they don't. And so our board has utilized my expertise to come in and educate our board, the staff, our work source centers, our committees with employers to continue to build that conversation. But not all of them are interested, and not all of them are overly friendly to the idea. And so that's an area where we need, again, that regional relationship to build upon that, educate the partners, and bring them into the conversations. And I don't say that in trying to be demeaning or anything else, but there's history, there's relationships that have been severed, and there's been frustrations, right? And so it's just building that back up piece by piece and being, a part of that conversation. And so I appreciate your comment, and I agree. that is the perfect partner for registered apprenticeship to help build, especially when we talk about non-traditional programs and especially when we want to talk about rural communities. So it's a key piece to it. And I definitely appreciate that. Okay, we're going to continue on with our slide deck here in hopes that you guys get the recommendations. So again, we've already talked about this. So I'm going to skip this slide and go ahead and get to the next one. So outreach and recruitment. I think that, you know, it's very clear that it's people know about us. That almost every single program that I talk to has really a lot of applicants. And so it's how to keep those applicants engaged so that you don't lose them. It's how to better align our outreach with entry points. And I want to bring up the skill centers again, because I think this is a very valuable piece of information. Many of you sit on advisory boards, or many of you come into a skills center and you talk about your program and you tell students when they can apply. Well, when our students are graduating and they're not 18 by the time they graduate, we lose them because they can't apply for your program, many of them, and they don't want to wait. They want to go to work before they go to college, or they want to join the Army because they don't want to wait. Whatever it is, we lose them in between. The other thing is some of your programs only take applications during April or some other time that doesn't align with graduation times. And so we miss this opportunity, and our skill centers and our CTEs are saying, we understand apprenticeship and we think it's awesome, but our students don't get in. And when there is a good relationship and they do apply, there's a huge wait. So is there a way to focus or to fix our apprenticeship standards so that there's some language that says such and such amount of slots will be for yearly graduating students of CTE or skill centers? There has to be something that is guaranteeing some access. And I know that there's some work that can be done around that, because we've done it for pre-apprenticeship and we've done it for tarot. So how do we look at what we're doing and make it better so that we get great applicants and those relationships are paying off on both sides? So I see a chat, but we've already talked about marketing, so I don't want to belabor that too much. Okay, that was you, Christina. And then we really wanted to talk about opportunities in rural Washington. And this really isn't necessarily something that I see. There's two pieces. One is partnering. I don't know how many of you on the call plan to head out to the Quinault Indian Nation in April to recruit on the coast. And that's the problem. There's only going to be a handful of you that do. And there's such great success in doing that, right? That's an area where our unemployment rates are very high, opportunities are very low. There is a need for employment and there is a need to lift up the community, but it's really far away, right? And so when you're looking at your return on investment, does it make sense to take an entire day or day and a half to head out to the coast? And that's just one example. We could talk about any and all places in rural Washington that are having the same issue. And so again, there needs to be a strategy so that you all are partnering and saying, hey, I'm going, so let me take your resources. You're going, so take my resources. The Department of Veterans Affairs, Peter Lamont, he does a great job of outreaching for programs that are taking apprentices. And I think that if we can take ourselves out of our silos, we can see some support and we'll actually see some success in communities like that. And additionally, for those of you who maybe are looking at adding occupations to your apprenticeship program, there's some great resources in our STEPS study showcasing areas where we do not train through apprenticeship in Washington State that our industries really need here in Washington, that there are apprenticeship programs across the nation that are having great success. And so that's another way that we can look at our rural Washington stakeholders and lift them up and add opportunities in apprenticeship. And lastly, you know, I touched on it before, but making it easy for our educational partners. It can't take 25 minutes to explain how to apply for an apprenticeship program and when and what you need. It's got to be much easier than that. So that's something for you to look at your program specifically and see, you know, how can we make this easier? And there are some great programs with best practices that do everything online. And I know that there's some concerns about that. But it's the sign of the times. And I think that you'll find that you'll have more applicants, which means a larger pool to pull from, and better applicants at the end of the day. So our support services are a huge piece of this, especially again when we're talking about our rural programs, and making that a cheat sheet would be significantly ideal. Every one of our apprenticeship programs asked, how do I access this for my apprentice? Whether it's an apprentice who is living unsheltered, whether it's an apprentice who doesn't have the ability to get all of the tools that they need. Again, I feel like those of you that are in kind of that King County area have it good because the partners have figured this out and you know who to call. But for the rest of Washington, there's a great need to pool that. So again, if we speak about that regional basis of working together and communicating and kind of dialing in what those resources are, at the end of the day, the support for the apprentice will be there, which will help with your retention rates. So anything, Christina or Peter, you want to add to this?
I was looking back up in the chat, and earlier in the conversation, it was mentioned by Miss Eggleston about the high school pre-apprenticeship that they have at Federal Way High School, that their pre-apprentices are having trouble getting return calls or emails from apprenticeship programs using the contact list that's available. So I think that's another thing to consider, is that as people change over in positions and things like that, is inconvenient as it may be for an apprenticeship program to put out new information. If there's a way to centralize that and get that out to pre-apprenticeship programs like the one at Federal Way High School would be beneficial for everyone. So pre-apprentices don't fall through the cracks of a system that they're supposed to get access to.
Yes. And one of the recommendations that we came across was when it comes to any sort of outreach contact, whether it's for a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship program, because there is change in staff and whatnot, to just do a information at, organization, because that email stays with the organization and then can be pushed out to the appropriate contact. And I think that if you see programs starting to implement that, you would have fewer situations where either the email doesn't work anymore or somebody doesn't answer it. Tris, I see that your hand is up. Do you want to go ahead and take yourself off mute?
Oh, yes. And thank you for bringing up that point. We are in our third year of a pre-apprenticeship program, and we look at the guidebooks. We look at all the websites with our pre-apprentices, and we recently sent emails and phone calls to everything listed, to all the apprenticeship programs in King County and Pierce County. And we only got one person to return a phone call or an email, which leads us to going back to, you have to know somebody to get your pre-apprentices into an apprenticeship program. But I also wanted to offer a solution. One of the things we do with our course catalog and the courses that we're offering in Federal Way Public Schools is we have a QR code, and that way you can keep it updated or a survey link. So as people come and go, you just update the contact information. So it's not creating all these lovely posters and brochures and packets and then having to redo them.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's great insight. Preston.
Yes, thank you for taking the question. I just real briefly, I just think that the problem that I see, being a former employer myself, former union person, teacher now in K-12, I see the problem is exactly what Sharissa was talking about, is lack of genuine interest in getting kids into the trades, because it is definitely not there with all the inquiries that I've put out, calling, asking for flyers, asking for representatives to come visit us. Union bosses are not coming in, returning calls, and the kids feel left out, and they turn the other way and go somewhere else. And I'm not talking about just my K-12 kids. I'm talking about kids that have gone on to JC, gone on university, and come back and said, I need to get in the trades. I'm like, go out there and look at the L&I website and see if you can find out how to get in the apprenticeships. Here at our school, I've been waiting 2 years now to get an electrical IBEW poster, and after many inquiries, I still don't have it. And it's pretty sad. And we cannot get kids interested if we don't show interest, or if the industry doesn't show interest. And that is simply a fact. It is just not there. And it's sad to say, I'm a former union sprinkler fitter, turned into a union carpenter, and now I teach millwork and trades here. And it is a sad fact that we can't get more outside interest here just in the high school. But with parents call me, friends of mine, say my kid has dropped out of college, we want to go into the electrical trades. And I tell them, well, the only thing I've seen is IBEW post up in Bellingham. Looks like they're hiring a lot. So the kids have gone up there to see if they get into a union there. It's just, it's not there. And it's, my CD directors also having the problems. And the other thing about, this is not brief, but the other thing about centers like skill centers, it's a very small percentage of an alternate group that goes there. A lot of the group is here still at the high school, and they feel left out. They feel not just because they're not going to college, but because maybe the trades isn't for me because nobody cares. So that's kind of my take on it. And it's sad to say, I can only talk so much, but until somebody brings me a flyer, a poster, an interest, a guest speaker, a field trip interest, it's hard to pass that on. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I don't know where you're located, but if you're outside of the I-5 corridor, I think that school districts feel that burden even more so. And I would encourage, one of the best practices that we've seen is every one of these apprenticeship programs has a committee that oversees them. And what a great opportunity to utilize those relationships. We, our apprenticeship coordinators wear a lot of hats, and they can't be at all 250 plus schools, right? So how do we use those relationships with our employers to help us do that outreach and to share the opportunities, so that these inquiries don't go years on end without being answered? I know as a past apprenticeship coordinator, that was the best place to get somebody to sign up was, for me, it was, a construction class, and it was direct access to the students, and certainly made a huge impact if you were able to talk to those students more than one time during their career, before they are out there ready to go into employment. And we've seen great success, but it's that one-off relationship, and it's not happening across the state as a whole as a practice. And it just is, if you happen to know a relationship, and I live in a small community, so I did. And so it benefited those students, but that's not what we see taking place across the state. So that's great information, and we appreciate your willingness to share that.
Yeah, real quickly. My most successful placement has been with the buildsubmarine.org. The private industry with the publication on websites and the cell phones that they're putting out. I have 6 people applying to the buildsubmarine.org. So it's that's an effective way to get somebody to apply for a job. They're going to move and go build submarines, and that's the most effective, successful advertising I've seen.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the other focus and bucket that we saw was just the focus on equity and diversity. And we've talked about equity because equity is based on a lot of things, but one of it is access across the entire state. And so we definitely have an issue there. There's some great best practices with our mentorship programs. There are many of our labor organizations that are stepping up and realizing it is past time to have mentorship within the organization for apprentices and journey folks alike, to be connected and to lend support. There's also trainings. I'll call on Shayna to elaborate more on mentorship matters if she wants. But how her program has implemented that and offered it to employers as well. I don't know if Shane is still on the call actually, but what a great way to continue to create a culture in the workplace that benefits, and not just for hard days, but also to teach folks how to teach an apprentice. So when you're a tradesperson and you've been solely focused on just doing your job, now how to share that knowledge and experience and skill set with an apprentice who is really nervous and doesn't know what you're talking about and feels like you're speaking a different language. And so it's definitely a wonderful opportunity to utilize that and to partner with your employers on it. And then representative leadership. It's one thing to say, we take all, everybody can be an apprentice and everybody can graduate. But is the ceiling set for anybody else? And so when you hire your community and your community becomes your leadership, then you know for a fact that that's the case. I see Shayna, go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, I'm actually trying to organize a train the trainer on the mentorship matters soon for my own internal team members. And so if anybody else in the trades or any of the other apprenticeship programs is interested in that, it's really communication skills. So the electricians out of Canada created it, but those skills are relatable across multiple industries. We had them customize it with our logo and stuff. So let me know. I'll put my email in the chat if you are interested in sending people through that. We only have a few people, so it'd be great to get a larger group of individuals trained to that trainer.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really interesting because just as a tradesperson, I don't want to be told that I'm doing anything wrong. And this training doesn't do that. And it really helps you to think how you are conducting yourself and how you can be a better mentor. And so I really appreciate that. And then the last piece I want to talk about is kind of an effective complaint process. And clearly this is not a fun topic, but this is another retention piece. And so if there's not an effective complaint process within your program, you're going to find that a lot of folks are just going to disappear and just leave rather than face and try to bring light to an issue. And so I would just suggest that you take a look at what your complaint process is for an apprentice, whether it's for something on the job or within the program, and see if you could put yourself in different people's shoes would you utilize your complaint process, or would you not? And then you would just disappear and be one of those apprentices who did not complete, who did not give a exit interview and did not answer the phone when called, right? So just something for you to look at and really dive in on and see where you're at. Okay, we're moving right along here. So these are the top priorities of recommendations that are really kind of easy to implement. And this was for the apprenticeship system as a whole. I think that as you look through this list, you can find that some of these are really easy. It would take a matter of a few days or a few weeks to implement, and it would be very successful, and you would see outcomes for your programs. So, you know, I really want to focus in on this regional. When Peter and I talked about this before, he says, we've done that in the past and it didn't work. And now we're doing statewide stuff and it's not really working either. It's having some success, right? So let's look at it again. And our workforce development councils are a great partner for this. Your local community technical college is a great partner for this. And I think when you see it as a regional focus, it's your community, right? And so there's just this responsibility to do better for your community rather than the statewide effort. And I think that you'll see your partnerships grow. You'll understand how you can work together, what the roles are, how funding sources can be potentially shared for some of the support services and educational trainings and employer outreach and so many other things. So I really want to focus on that regional communities of practice. Christina.
I was just going to add, we can offer a training in how to organize and conduct a community of practice, because I think that's one of the largest issues. It sounds amazing to set up, but if you haven't had that practice before, it can be very frustrating and kill projects off quite quickly. So we'd be happy to offer that sometime in the future if it's a request from everyone.
Thank you. I think that it certainly makes the most sense to take that offer if you can. We all have a lot of meetings we go to and not all of them are beneficial, right? So that would be a great way to ensure that your community of practice is doing the work that it is intended to do. Jody, you have your hand raised. Hey.
Christina Rupp, I was trying to reply to you immediately. It took me a minute to find my hand. I would take that training in a heartbeat. In Spokane, as you all know, we need that community involvement. We need that community commitment, but we need a place to, gather and somebody in particular, and maybe that person is me, but a point of contact to get the ball rolling. But yes, I'm not exactly sure how to do that other than say, here's some food and here's some chairs. Come, let's talk about apprenticeships.
Absolutely. And so I'll look at our calendar for when we can offer training. It probably won't be until after late March, Jody, but we'll get something scheduled and we'll do it online. So that way there won't be any access issues for the training.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome.
So again, just want to highlight too, to look at your application process and also your marketing for that application. I think that, one of our answers as to why we do things the way we do things is because we've just always done it that way. And I think we're far past an answer like that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So it's time to kind of do some internal evaluation of your program and how you operate and how you can take some of these strategies and implement them for a better payout. And I saw Billy Hetherington before he left his message. He's only one guy, but here's his information. He'll do his best. And that, he's a representative of a labor union. He's not even an apprenticeship coordinator. And I totally get it. You wear a lot of hats and you have a lot of emails coming your way and a lot of different things that you're expected to do. So we want to help you streamline that and make it easier. And so evaluation from leadership and how to operate a little bit easier is going to benefit you at the end as well. So we certainly have some time left for any other questions or comments. I know that Christina put it in the chat. So for those of you that do participate or want to participate with the L&I Apprenticeship Council quarterly meetings. So on Wednesdays, there's a whole lot of committee meetings. And one of them is the Joint Retention and Recruitment. I might have that backwards committee. And we're going to take this conversation to the next step and really focus on outreach, mentorship, and retention of women and minorities within our apprenticeship programs based on some conversations that took place at the last quarterly meeting. And again, it's not a presentation, but a discussion and a area to help your programs be more successful. So certainly want to make sure that everybody knows about that. Yes, Sheena.
I would just like to also strongly encourage stakeholders that want to be committed to apprenticeship to get signed up on the L&I listserv and put those apprenticeship council dates in your calendar. I don't know how many times we've seen a convening around apprenticeship scheduled during the apprenticeship council when nobody can attend just because purely didn't know when that was there or that those dates were taken for that. So even, you know, the Career Connect network, we've consistently suggested that people attend the apprenticeship council meetings because that really is the best place to see how the system works and functions and make those relationships and show that as a partner, you really are committed to understanding it and to partnering on it. So I would just put a plug in for that for anybody who can attend.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that meeting travels. It's a road show. So this quarter, it's in Tumwater next week. I believe I don't have my calendar.
It's next week. I know that.
Yep. Next Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah. So, and it's open to anyone who wants to attend. I think that most people, especially on the Wednesday meetings, they leave having learned something, or they leave with a new idea of how to implement something into their own organization. And I think that that's really valuable. And also this connection, right? So how do you know about opportunities to partner or to use services if you're not there? So as my friend Peter Lamont says, if you're not at the table, you're on it. So I encourage as much participation as possible.
You're part of the menu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and I will add that we meet 4 times quarterly throughout the year. And so every January we are in Tumwater at headquarters of Labor Industries. In April, we will be in Bellingham this year. We alternate between Bellingham and Vancouver. July, we'll be back in Tumwater. And then Jody Martinez, we are always in Spokane in October. So
I know.
So I highly encourage anyone of your colleagues to come join us there. And really the Wednesday meetings are the networking meetings. And if you really want to know how the sausage is made, stay for the Thursday public meeting. You will learn a lot about registered apprenticeship. Bring your popcorn sometimes. But yeah, and really appreciate all the work that people are doing. I did want to put in a plug also for really the WDCs, the 12 WDCs. I was on the Pierce County Workforce Central WDC for years, and really the challenge was how do you harmonize the 3 funding streams of adult, youth, and dislocated worker, business connections with apprenticeship, because you have job seekers and then you have employers. And so how do you do that? And apprenticeship is, concerted work-based learning. So there are some OJT dollars that can be used towards that or grants. So it's a matter of each WDC has a relationship. I know Christina in Pack Mountain, there are opportunities to use some of those funding to do that. So that's a partnership that I think we continue to encourage. And then secondly, I would be remiss if I did not mention out my higher ed colleagues. I was at the State Board for Community Technical Colleges for 5 years, so the 2-year system as well as the 4-year universities. They're another opportunity of collaboration with apprenticeship. They're also very interested in, obviously, the 2-year system. One of the challenges that I saw on the screen, or at least maybe it was in a previous PowerPoint, was if you're working with a 2-year system and have students that are part of their 2-year system, we have what's called a 50% apprentice retention waiver, which is a challenge to, or has been a challenge to get students working with the existing apprenticeship programs, and even the colleges trying to make that pencil out when you're only getting 50% tuition. So there are some challenges, but it doesn't mean that there haven't been opportunities. And all of this, I think if we all have the kind of the will, there will be the kind of the desire to manage these challenges and get everybody that wants to get into apprenticeship through it. So I will stop with that.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Are there, so I guess I will allude to, I'm already getting quite a few emails for the full report. So I thank you for that. If you have not had a chance to read it, again, a great time to eat some popcorn, grab a highlighter, maybe some sticky notes and see what's in it. So I appreciate that. And I'd be happy to send that out to those of you that are interested. And then Christina did put in the chat, if you're interested to attend the to be determined establishing a community of practice, to email her, and her email's in the chat. So I intend to email you, Christina, to get on that list. I think that is a great opportunity. And I will say too, L&I Listserv is a fantastic resource, but also is the Construction Center of Excellence. A great deal of information comes through there. And another place I have seen when programs are opening, applications come through there. So what a great resource to be able to share that information out. And so if you're working with a school, a K through 12 system partner, or otherwise, I would always encourage you to have them jump on that listserv as well, because that information is meant for them too. So the floor is open if anybody else has any other comments or questions.
I just wanted to add a couple things really quick. One, I saw a great comment in the chat from Leslie concerning the MLK Opportunity Fair at Garfield High School, so that there will be apprenticeship programs and unions present at that event. And there's multiple events, especially this time of year. This is when most of the school districts are ramping up to offer these kinds of career fairs and events. So in your local area, check around, because more than likely somebody's got something on the books, either this time of year or starting in March. You'll see a lot of them happening. It's a great way to get involved.
Yes. And I don't know, Peter, we used to keep that. There was a calendar. You could email Terry and have your event added to the calendar. I don't know if that's something that you guys still do or not.
I don't know, but since I'm in charge, I'll find out.
Yeah. If not, that was a great, great resource. And so maybe somebody else can do that. It is helpful when you're planning an event to know when the other events are. Leslie, go ahead.
Talking about events, and I know you've mentioned WorkSource. I know that here in Seattle King County, we have something called the Resource Digest. And so we can post anything for you through that, and it goes out to all the partners in the system. I would imagine it's similar around the rest of the state. So take advantage of that. Feel free and email me if you have anything that you want to post, because it goes to a large distribution of a lot of these service organizations, wraparound services, and job seekers. So I'm happy to I'll put my email in the chat. And thanks for Christina for bringing up the MLK event. There's also At that event will be resume room to help job seekers, Urban League and some of our service organizations that work with WorkSource will be there on site. There'll also be interviews on site, and then, like I said, the unions and apprenticeships. So some of those contacts that you might be looking for, you have the live body right there.
That's excellent. Okay, with that, I want to again thank all of you that were, have kind of been around for this whole process. We appreciate all of your input and information that you were willing to share, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. If my team can be of service to you, you have our contact information. And again, thank you so much, Peter and Christina, for not only giving us a space to discuss this, but taking the time to share your expertise.
Thank you so much, Peter and Christina, and thank you all for joining us today. So a video of this will be available. I'm taking a brief leave of absence, and we'll be back in a week, and we'll make sure that it gets posted to the website and out into the community as quickly as possible, as well as the transcripts.
And I will also give my thanks to both Christinas for co-hosting the event, and hopefully making my job a lot easier in terms of explaining registered apprenticeship. And really just, I mean, for me, I've been doing this for close to 30 years. I think Christina and I started when we were 15. That's RUP. And
that's right. We were 15 years old. That's correct.
Yes, we were
15.
So thank you all, and we will see you soon.
And if you have any other trainings you'd like to see hosted through the Washington State Construction Center of Excellence, we're happy to do that at any time on this platform. So please let us know and just shoot me an email with your suggestions and comments. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.